All right. So, uh, today's video is confidence is the killer of aspiration. It's the gateway to comfort. I fucking love anytime a video or a script I have throws me off guard. And I mean it, off guard. Because in context, being thrown off guard is basically, let's take it from a physical perspective. You know, when you're kind of like doing nothing, and one, I don't know, those pranks where people just kind of jump in your way and scream, and you go, So that's what I see as off guard. And even though you like, it's just normally these pranks where somebody scares you, you're not on guard, you're in a comfortable place. But like, from my perspective, you're still basically guarded. You just very much like your guard is minimal, and then you kind of like realize it's not like that situation. It's a scarier situation that you it's a scary environment than you thought it is. So am I on guard most of the time? So there are things that happen with me that I don't necessarily, most of the time when something is happening, I think there's a fight, flight, and fright response. These are the three F's. They're within our nature. Fright from the fight slash flight from my perspective, I don't think I have. Now, that probably is because I lived in Liberia, Africa, where I was exposed to Ebola. But I'm not sure if I have the fright or just a nihilistic, like, what the fuck is going on? Because when these things kind of happen, especially outside the house, right? Because I do lower my guard when I'm in the house or when I'm in my room. When I'm in the house, I don't lower my guard, even around family. But if something actually happened, and I'm remembering a time we were filling water and the entire hose, I don't know if you guys are familiar with thick wire hoses, or the water hoses, and it fell from like 5 stories on top of like a zinc roof, you know, those metal sheet roofs, and everything was like bomb, and everyone was like freaking out, but I was just like sitting there completely like calm and indifferent. And from my perspective, that's nihilism. So I think nihilism as well is like fight. I don't know. It's definitely not fight, and it's definitely not fright. It's not fight, and it's not fright. Flight. Is it fright? I'm not sure. It's just kind of like accepting reality, right? But so like just the off guard part is still like what I'm debating. But anyways, confidence is the killer of aspiration. It's the gateway to comfort. And the fascinating thing about it that's kind of triggering me is basically calling me. Actually, here, let me show it to you, man. I normally show you this stuff, or sometimes I forget, but depending on how heavy it is. Uh, yeah, whenever you're confident about something, or let's talk about the duality of everything, right? Because technically, when you're confident, you very much trust yourself in doing it. But I think that's a mislabeling of confidence. Or, let's look at it this way. If you're confident where you trust yourself in doing this, I think that could be true confidence. But if you're confident because you kind of have done it before and succeeded, that is not necessarily true confidence. The reason I say it this way is because if you're If you doing something has allowed you to build trust with yourself, then effectively your confidence is coming from the source. But if your confidence is based on, let's just say, previous accomplishments, what effectively they're doing, because like you're not reflecting on yourself in in the work that you did that's making you feel confident. You're reflecting on the accomplishments that you have done, on them directly. And I think that that identifies a certain parameter, which every single time you do something, basically, you do something with that confidence, isolates, builds the parameters stronger, and eventually creates the comfortable space of which, well, it gets harder and harder to kind of break out. And because I say aspiration here, right? Like, what is aspiration if not kind of like producing more? When you're aspiring for something, then you kind of want it to be more efficient and effective in whatever it is. And effectiveness is what's built from basically false confidence, and efficiency is built from true confidence. Yet again, the worst thing is being efficient in something that's completely useless. So maybe both aspects of confidence are necessary, but the genuine thought process behind it. It's the gateway. Okay, so like here I write confidence is the killer of aspiration, it's the gateway to comfort. So so the right, like, because I got to a point right now where I'm talking to you guys where I realize that okay, there's one side of confidence that's more focused on efficiency because I got it done before, and effectiveness, sorry, I got it done before. And another side that's focused on efficiency, which is more of a where how I was approaching it. And either one of them could kill aspiration, because if you just profoundly become efficient, then eventually you're kind of like going around in loops, right? Like all you're not necessarily being effective, which means you're not getting anything done. You're just getting better at whatever it is you're doing, but it's not leading anywhere. And if you go towards effectiveness, then what you're doing is you're just kind of like it's just creating messes that work, and eventually the whole thing will collapse. So whatever you're aspiring to doesn't have a solid foundation. So one creates a solid foundation, or but no steps, no actionable steps in order to kind of move towards your aspiration. And the other one doesn't create a solid foundation, but it creates the steps, so they're weak steps that would eventually collapse. And I love the fact that I said it's the gateway to comfort, because like maybe I was looking at confidence from the perspective of like when somebody gets confidence, they kind of like stop putting in the efforts. It reflects directly on how you see yourself, which is the one thing that did not build confidence, because like what you're building confidence as you're seeing yourself differently. And when you see yourself differently in a situation that's familiar, naturally differently, as in like I'm doing things differently, I'm better at doing this, or I'm better at handling it, then what you're doing is you're kind of like progressing as yourself. And when you're looking at yourself in a confident way, or when you notice your confidence, the main thing the biggest thing that happens is noticing yourself. And that reflects more on your ego than on yourself, on the self itself, because the self does need to detach every once in a while to realize itself. And I think it does that through the ego. But most of our life is lived through our projection, which means we're always looking at the ego before we see the self, or we need the ego to get to the self. So ideally, confidence is the killer of aspiration, purely because it kind of like focuses the attention on what you have become instead of what made you become this way. It's a bit intense even for me. I it took you for a loop in this fucking like video, right? It started with something completely different. It's basically like looking at a bottle of water and labeling it, right? On the other side, on that's the external view of the bottle of water. And I think that's what confidence initially does. It kind of like makes you look at you. And then basically, if we get past that, then we kind of like realize that the reason this is a bottle of water is because, a bottle is because like, it has space inside for us to fill stuff in, be it liquids, solids, or gas, or whatever. The true essence is basically its functionality. And I think confidence, the first thing confidence does, because like the easiest way to communicate with ourselves, communicate is to label stuff. And I think confidence is the killer of aspiration, simply because like the gateway to comfort is labeling and like looking at something as if like I know that I can do it. I'm fine. It's a video. I love you guys.